Hello and welcome to the Lytham St Anne's Spitfire Visitor Centre here at Hangar 42. In 2008, whilst leader of Farnham Borough Council, our Visitor Centre founder, John Coombs, came across some old wartime documents in the Town Hall archives. These related to Lord Beaverbrook's Spitfire Fund appeal, to which Lytham St Anne's, along with many other towns, sought to raise money to purchase a Spitfire, which would then be named after him. Mid-1941, with the money raised, the Mayor of Lytham St Anne's, Councillor Miss J. Russell, MBE JP, sent a cheque for £6,500 to Lord Beaverbrook, and soon after, a Spitfire Mark 5B W3644, named Lytham St Anne's, left the factory and entered service with RAF Fighter Command. Determined that there should be a permanent memorial to the wartime fundraising efforts of the townspeople, John formed the Lytham St Anne's Spitfire display team, and in 2009 obtained its first Spitfire. It's a replica Mark 9 that we call Lucy. With the aircraft, John and a few founding members began touring the country displaying Lucy and raising funds. As the touring and fundraising went on, more and more military artefacts appeared by purchase, loans and donations. Somewhere was required to store them, and in 2010 the group moved to its first home at Moss Side near Lytham. With funds now growing and a place to carry out construction, the team purchased a new replica airframe and began the conversion process to create a memorial to the Lytham St Anne's Spitfire. The aircraft would be painted up in the colours and markings of 19 Squadron QVJ, as it was on the 23rd of June 1942, at the day that both it and its 20-year-old pilot, Sergeant Alan Lever Ridings, were lost over the English Channel. You'll learn more about Alan during your visit here today. As fundraising continued and work on the aircraft progressed, construction began at Lytham's Fairhaven Lake, just down the road from where we are today. The council had agreed to donate the land, but the cost of installing the railings, display plaques and the mount and the aircraft itself will be met by fundraising efforts of the display team. At last the big day arrived. The mount was prepared and Spitfire W3644 was brought out of the workshop and made ready for transport. With the vehicle loaded and final finishing touches applied, she was on her way. With the riggers, crane and volunteers all in place, the aircraft was raised into the air to complete its memorial that John Coombs had set out to achieve. With the completion of the memorial, the touring and fundraising continued. This time it was to provide a permanent home where the public could visit and see our growing collection of aircraft, vehicles and military artefacts. The team's efforts were rewarded in 2015 with the lease of Hangar 42 here at Blackpool Airport. Unlike today, the hangar was in a bit of a sorry state, and before we could move anything, we had to clear out a lot of rubbish. Doors, windows and ceilings were missing, and this historic Bellman wartime hangar had become just an airport dumping ground, including the remnants of its final commercial aviation operations. After weeks of hard work, the volunteers had removed tons of rubble, collapsed ceilings and broken and disused equipment and rubbish. New plumbing, power and lighting was installed, and work commenced on refurbishing the rooms, whilst the first aircraft were brought onto the hangar floor. After the rather cramped conditions of our previous home, John and the team of volunteers' first thoughts were, how on earth are we going to fill this space? You need not have worried, as you will see during your visit here today. But the story is not over. This is no static museum, but rather a working visitors centre, and your admission, fees and donations enable you to play a part as we seek to expand your experiences by adding to our exhibits. We continue to tour and display our aircraft around the country to raise awareness of our wartime past and funds to enable us to continue to host recovered wreckage of the Lancashire Aircraft Investigation Team. The Flight Simulator experience of Raven Cockpits. And Saving AIM project, who are rebuilding a rare World War II airspeed Oxford aircraft. You can learn more about these and more on your visit here today. From all the team at the Spitfire Visitor Centre at Hangar 42, we hope you will enjoy your time with us here today. And together, we will remember them.
I'll introduce myself again. I'm Jeff. I'm the volunteer here. We're all volunteers. Nobody gets paid. We're all nutters together. And we all want to see the northwest of England's contribution to World War II remembered, certainly the Air Force side. So I'll just give you a couple of parish notices. The toilets are just down outside this door and turn left and right down at the bottom. To make the toilets more interesting, you can practice your Morse code while you're there. Okay. There's no fire alarms planned for today, so any fire alarm will be real. A member of staff dressed in uniform will take you to a safe place. And that's about it, really. Like I said, the main aim of today is to have fun. This room is our operations room. This is a lucky, it is a lucky operations room in that it's housed in a hangar, so it would be warm and relatively comfortable compared with the other ops rooms that would be scattered around the airfield, so that the aircraft aren't all grouped together in one area and one bomb could take out the whole squadron. So the flights were distributed around the airfield. There's an example of the hutted operations rooms at the back of the hangar, which you'll go through on the tour. Most people, when you talk about operations rooms, think about the big table with all the girls sat round, pushing the markers around on a large scale map. Like you see in the movies, that's the sector headquarters. The sector headquarters for this area was based at Barton Grange, where the garden centre is, if anybody knows it. Have you travelled far today?
No. I live locally.
Are you local? Are you local?
No, we've been from Glasgow.
From Glasgow? Oh,
We've
right.
stayed in Blackpool, so this is the last stop before we go home.
Oh, right. Save the best till last.
That's it.
Yeah. How about you folks?
Swansea.
Swansea? All right. That was a fair way. Yeah, so the sector headquarters is the place where they have the big table and everybody's doing the planning and saying we haven't got enough aircraft and things like that. And they would telephone here, through onto our red phone here, and say, squadron scramble. And you might think, well, what would we be scrambling for in Blackpool? We'd be scrambling to protect Liverpool and Manchester. Okay, on the board here, we've got a typical duty board for the night of May the 7th to 8th of 1941. This is an actual reproduction of the original board, okay, with the original names, aircraft and everything. You see the mostly defiant aircraft. The Defiant was not a very successful daytime fighter. Pass it around, right? It had no forward firing guns, just a big turret on the back, which was a colossal weight for an aircraft like that to carry. And so it was relegated to night fighter duties. And the night fighter duties, it was good at. So we've got mostly Defiants, we've got one Hurricane, which is being flown by the wing commander, right? He's obviously commandeered the best aircraft for himself. And the whole squadron took off within a few minutes of each other. Sorties generally lasted about an hour and a half. After that, you're running out of fuel in a Defiant. So all the sortie lengths are pretty much the same, except for one here, which was only 50 minutes, because unfortunately the fighter was shot down by a JU88. The crew bailed out though, and were safe. We got our revenge here. Sergeant Olney and Sergeant Simmons said they damaged a JU88. They saw an engine on fire. They didn't actually just damage it, they shot it down. And it crashed in the Ribble Estuary on the Southport side in the mud. 2 doors down in our archaeology room, you can see the remains of that JU88, which our archaeology group went and dug out, and which was the subject of a television programme. There's a very human story behind that as well, which I'll let them tell you down there. Also, as well as doing your usual sort of scramble operations, they would fly standing operations as well. So they'd fly a routine flight around the area looking for anything untoward. The pilots can come in here, they can self-brief, see which aircraft they're in, who they're flying with, what the duty is. On this side of the room, they can get the meteorology information, which is pretty basic compared with nowadays. And there's a weather board up there as well, giving wind speeds and directions and temperatures and things like that. But pretty much a self-briefing room. You can, as you go around on your tour, please do feel free to come in here when it's not being used as it is now, and you can have a mooch around. We ask that you don't touch exhibits, mainly for your own safety. Aircraft have lots of sharp bits and sticky out bits and things like that. There will be things which you'll be invited to touch and to hold. In the hangar, around the far side, there is a large number of weapons on display, which can be explained to you. And you have the opportunity as well to sit in a Mark 9 Spitfire and have a picture taken, have all the controls and instruments explained to you, things like that, and then group photos at the end. So you're very welcome to do that. But take pictures on your own phone, so you've got them to take home or send to friends immediately. Something a bit different for this year's Christmas card. As well as being a fighter station, this was Blackpool trained over 750,000 airmen and women during the war. It was the ideal training base. Any ideas why? Go on, have a guess.
It's pretty far away from the action.
Yeah. Most of the action was down south. What else? What important thing do you need to train 750,000 people?
Lots of people.
Lots of people.
Space.
Space. Getting close. Where do they sleep? Blackpool was full of empty hotels. So it was ideal for housing everybody. And it wasn't just the RAF personnel, it was personnel from all over the empire. In those days, all the Commonwealth countries sent people here, New Zealand, Australia, South Africa, Canada, and then they sent people from Poland, Czechoslovakia, Norway, Holland. They all came here. And we trained pilots, navigators, air gunners, wireless operators, ground crew mechanics, fitters, you name it, they were trained here. Radar operators. Blackpool Tower was used as a target for training radar operators. Pretty much the ideal place. Only very few bombs, only half a dozen bombs were dropped on Blackpool during the war. One of the reasons for that was because Hitler gave an order that Blackpool wasn't to be bombed. He was going to use Blackpool for his troops to have rest and recuperation after the invasion. So he gave an order, Blackpool is not to be bombed. Amazing. Right, I think it's time to go on with the tour. So we're going to lead out through the NAFI, okay, where you can get a cup of tea, can of Coke, or whatever you would like. Later on, probably, I would think. And then I'll take you into the Saving Amy project. The Saving Amy project is an Airspeed Oxford project. There are no airworthy Airspeed Oxfords. We're building one from scratch here with a lot of original pieces. It's a wooden aircraft, so there's not an awful lot of metal bits to be had. But we're getting there. We're working on it. And Amy Johnson took off from here, Blackpool Airport, delivering an Airspeed Oxford on her last flight. So I'll let those guys tell you about it, and then you can go in the archaeology room. Any questions, anybody? No? Great. Have fun. Enjoy your visit.
Thanks very much. Instead, we'll put a gun turret at the back. This made the aircraft extremely heavy. It made it handle exceptionally badly, and it couldn't defend itself very well because it didn't have any guns. So as a fighter, it was a bit of a flop, but they discovered that as a night fighter, it was terrific. And at that time, Liverpool and Manchester were being bombed very heavily, in bombers, because they could fly behind them and underneath them where they couldn't be seen, and they have these vertically pointing guns, and it was superb for shooting down aircraft at night. So those are the main squadron that flew from here in the active service with the Spitfires. And which leads me sort of quite nicely. This is actual data from May the 7th, the night of May the 7th and the 8th, 1941. Real people, wing commander, privilege of rank, who gets to fly the Hurricane.
Right, we're going to start off with a short video.
Yeah, the college there. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you know what? In Skip Village, 5 miles away, still used, it's owned by the MOD. It sends the signal down to the marines on the left. Very sensitive.
Cool.
It's sensible. Codes out as well. Nuclear weapon that goes into this country will be an airburst over one of those sites to take out our comms. And it will do. So where is East John Cook flies, he's only 17 now.
A guy's transporting down from Glasgow down to Manchester. Fog setting them in Manchester. Couldn't land, so he started circling around trying to find his time. And ended up circling over Chorley. Don't know the full circumstances, but he was seen circling over Chorley. The plane went inverted. He tried to get out. For whatever reason, he couldn't make it. The engine itself ended up buried in a pond in the garden and a house at Chorley. Many years later, the Air Crash Investigation there said that the pilot was doing unauthorised aerobatics above Chorley, and that's the reason why it crashed. That's the house picture. There's a video on the TV there showing about, because we've got the time team people involved, and they started doing the recreation of it all. So that's the picture of all the restoration. It was 10 foot down in a clay line pond. That's why it's in such good condition, because it went into the clay and pulled the lake. It got surrounded by fuel, oil and diesel and petrol, and it survived. The starter motor there still runs, believe it or not. It was dug up, pulled up, so the house owner had just had a garden redone when we found out about it and didn't want to dig up the garden. A few years later, he put the house up for sale. The new owner allowed us to go dig it up. And there it was. We came and lived it. And here it is now, cleaned up and everything. And there's a lot more story because the family always understood that the pilot was doing unauthorised aerobatics and was killed because of that. That was the cause of the crash. It turned out it's more likely that he ran out of fuel
or got completely disorientated, or the aircraft even maybe even overheated. Because when you're going slowly in circles, you're not getting the air into the radiators cooling down. So it wasn't pilot's error, because he was a very, very experienced pilot when he got to the accident. So that's the history of that piece of it. But to want certain purposes, there is another Merlin over there that came from a crash site as well, and that one there was out of a hurricane. It was over there. The family never had any mementos of the kill. And what we were able to do, what the guys were able to do, is take some of the metal out of the engine, reform it into a little model of a hurricane and give it back to the field in Red Green. And the story about that is that Lancaster was on a bombing raid in Berlin, got damaged, its communication systems and navigation systems got damaged. It overshot Lincoln by a little bit, and ended up trying to land at Blackpool. They didn't know he was coming in, he didn't know where he was going to. So he then aborted London and took off again. He was running very short of fuel, the crew bailed out, didn't quite want to. He tended to run out into the RAC and crash out there somewhere. He ran out of fuel, the left-hand side engine went first, so it started to spiral out.
So he would be training in the nose, the cockpit system.
That's what the team, I wasn't involved in it, and that's what the team found. The majority of what you see on that side there is from JU88.
Safe environments such as Australia, New Zealand, and South Africa.
So the picture depicting the incident, and this was done before the aircraft wreckage was found.
They've got the components.
That's the engine. And you can see where the bullet holes hit. He then went out to the front and started hitting. Eventually made that connection so to communicate. The guy's arm was saved. The day after a young girl was walking over the road, she gave the pilot a bunch of flowers, not knowing.
We've got about 5 or 6
I've seen tell all the stories in there. There's lots more. If you read the articles, that's the basis.
Cornwall, we had a farmer at the local museum who owed him money for some artwork. So he said, "You're not having it. These guys are Russell Towns, they've worked with us closely in the past. I want these guys to have it because they will fully restore it and cherish on the ground." And what we'll do is using the film to come in after it's been on the flight.
Never heard of that one. I've got to ground it. I'll have to tell the CO I've got to ground the aircraft, check for damage inside the wing. So, the CO calls them in. He said, there's a big piece of, he said, how'd that been English oak? He said, it ripped his wing off. But it wasn't, it was a whippy fir tree. It left a bit of it in the air run. I went to the headmaster in the Braddock days. Stand there. And he said, and I remember graphically what he said. You are a pair of buffoons, he calls this. They call him something worse. It's later. We are their guests. They put their utmost trust in you, in their state-of-the-art, into their top-range fighter, and you two are acting like a couple of Poland up to be buffoons in what you undertook. And I can only say, if I have my way, I will rip your wings off your chest and give you the worst duty I can. Hey, shot Poland up. Well, sir, I just got too low. It was just, I didn't see the tree. I mustn't have said, yes, but why did you lie about German Dornier Boller firing at you? You're like a pair of schoolboys telling me the offence. Yes, I didn't lie about that. Yes, you did. And also, the farmer phoned the local police force saying there's 2 idiots flying around his farm, through trees and upsetting his farming. It was D-Day. And they needed every pilot. And he never got put on report, but the CO was beside him. Now, you're not telling me that English fighter pilots and British ones didn't show off to young ladies, which they did, because that Mustang engine in there